And good morning. Welcome to Smart With Your Money Live. I am Chase Peckham. I am the Director of Community Outreach at the San Diego Financial Literacy Center, the education arm of DebtWave Credit Counseling. And I am joined, as I am every week, by my cohort and Community Outreach Coordinator, Felipe Arevalo. Hello, Felipe. How are we?
Hey, Chase. How's it going? Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This should be a fun one.
It is a fun one. And you know what? That is not a virtual background behind me. That is truly a Christmas tree. My wife has started extraordinarily early. We have now, this has been a full week and a half since I've had my tree up. So I'm wondering how much I'm going to love it by the time the holidays really come around.
You know, it's a little early normally for me, but you know, this is 2020. So a lot of the normalities are out the door. And yes, whatever can bring anyone a little more joy, I think
it does. And I've seen my wife and my kids obviously they're very, very excited, or the kids and my wife are all excited for the holidays. And which, you know, this time of year, I can't believe Thanksgiving is right upon us. This typically kicks off the holiday season, right? And this is when for most people and in normal times, when the holiday shopping season really begins. And so this is a good time to start talking about 5 holiday budgeting tips in this series of Smart With Your Money Live.
Yeah, and you know, like everything else this year, 2020, holiday shopping is going to be a little different, but that doesn't mean that people aren't going to be out necessarily shopping. So we felt it's a good idea, get some of these tips in here, and we'll get started here with the first tip. Start early. If you haven't started planning for 2020 holiday season, unfortunately it's a little late now because it is here. 2020 is that longest and shortest year all in one. So normally we would say start planning early, and you know, the best time to plan for 2021 is right when you finish 2020, and the earlier you start, the easier it makes it when you get to it.
I think it's like anything else, right? We talk about if you're wanting to save for a vacation, or you're saving for a car or house or whatever it might be, the earlier you start, the better, right? And if you start thinking about that, you're going to be able to think about let's face it. I mean, a lot of us think about the holidays all year round, and we look at something and we might say, gosh, that would be a great Christmas present. Or a great holiday present, Hanukkah, whatever it might be, that this is a great present for them. And then we think, oh, but we'll wait, right? Because we're nowhere near the holidays. But you can start putting things away and start saving for those things as early as January.
Yeah, the earlier you start, the easier it is on your monthly budget.
Absolutely. And I want to mention, Felipe, I'm sorry, I forgot to right at the beginning, but if you have any questions, you'll notice that you can ask questions at any time. In the chat, it'll go straight to us, the hosts, and we'll try to answer as best we can. And if we don't have time for answering those questions during the presentation, we will definitely have time to put dialogue between all of us right at the end for about 10 or 15 minutes if need be.
Yeah, and if you're watching on Facebook, feel free to drop a comment. Your question will find its way to us, so we'll get to those as well.
Absolutely.
All right, so we got the first one out of the way. Let's go on to our second tip here. Make a list and set a budget.
That guy's ready.
Yeah, he's got a long list. It looks like my kid's list. Make a list of who you're going to give gifts to this holiday season, and establish a budget for each individual, and then an overall budget. If you're going to give yourself gifts, make sure you add yourself to the list to make sure that you incorporate yourself into a budget. But then, Chase, the most important part of making the list is then going ahead and
sticking to it. Yeah, that's hard to do, but it is. I mean, especially if you make it a whole family thing too. If you happen to have family, or you've got nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters and things like that, is just really set that budget limit on what you're going to spend. And a lot of people, we've talked to experts throughout the years, and they constantly say, look, set a budget for everybody and kind of stick to that. And if you do that, the holidays are going to be a lot easier. The problem is we get super excited and go, oh, let's get that and let's get that. And then it can get a little bit overwhelming because let's face it, we all get excited to give, right? I mean, it's fun to do that.
Yeah, especially if you started shopping early and then before you know it, you're like, oh, a great present for my brother. And then you realize, oh, I bought my brother's 2 months ago. Now I have 2 of them. Oh, well, I'll just keep one for me. You know, but if you don't stick to that budget, maybe you write your budget down. And then as you buy something for that individual, cross them off, put a check next to them, and then write down what it is and where you hit it so that you can later go find it when it's time to start wrapping the presents.
Holidays is like a giant Costco list, right? I mean, if you're going to go to Costco, you have to have a list, right? Because if you don't, we're all going to walk into Costco or Target or whatever, those big shop, and there's always something that is going to get us, right? We're always going to go, oh, I need that, or oh, that looks awesome, and oh my gosh, there's a sale on that. You know, especially when you walk into Costco this time of year and there's these big, giant blow-up Santas or something like that, and the kids are with you and they're going, oh, we have to have that. Man, make the list. And the holiday list is exactly the same. We all get excited. We all are going to, that, especially this time of year, what kind of deals can I get? And then almost always our lists and our present list gets very inflated.
Yeah. And you start with a list and then you start thinking, oh, I forgot so-and-so. Or, oh, I can get so much of a better gift if I just add $10 to that person's budget. And you really got to try and hold back from that because your budget is what it is. And that should be what you're comfortable with and what gets you through, you know, with the least amount of financial concerns down the road.
Without question.
So on to the next one. We have Make It a Game. We've all played them and we've all heard them. Secret Santas, you know, White Elephants, other games that gift exchange games. And, you know, 2020 is no different, except maybe you're not going to all gather in someone's living room and or at the office and exchange. But if you make it a game, set a budget for that game. And you can make it fun where you only have to worry about buying one gift. And that means you only have to spend on one gift.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting in 2020 to see what happens, right? Especially now things are spiking all around. You know, people are thinking twice, maybe even about their travel plans and going to visit for the holidays. And I know that people are already figuring out how they're going to do Secret Santas virtually. And everybody set a limit, right, on what kind of game you can have. That really helps the budget, right? I mean, outside you've got all your mom or your dad or your brothers and sisters, and if everybody sets a limit on what a minimum on what you can spend and a maximum, then that budget's going to stay pretty on base there, and that's really, really important. And especially if we're not traveling right now and we're going to try to do these things virtually, there's a lot of very, very interesting ways that people are figuring out how to do these virtually.
Yeah, you can do it virtually, and then you can do the gift exchange, like distance gift giving.
Yeah.
You know, we're down here in San Diego. It can be easy to maybe meet somewhere like a park or a parking lot at the bay or something and keep your distance and exchange gifts that way. Get creative, make it fun. And if you set a limit, you know, or a range, you're going to get something. You pretty much know exactly where you're going to get something, and you get that one thing, and you can make it fun and exciting for everyone involved.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, I mean, to talk about a budget buster, if setting that minimum is really important. $20, maybe to $30 maximum, because you don't want to be the one that gets stuck with the $5 gifts that Aunt Betty ended up giving you or re-gifting you, right?
Yeah, from last year's Secret Santa.
Hey, I remember giving that to you.
Exactly. So, and if you have a big family like me, you know, that's a lot of gifts. Even if you did little gifts, that would add up really quick. Whereas you can just concentrate on finding a good deal on that one gift that you think is going to be cool. You know, it saves you money, saves you time, which is, you know, always a good thing as well.
You know, what's really interesting too is talking about a game with the kids, talking about the kids get all excited about Santa, and they were asking us the other day, how do we, you know, Santa can make that, right? And my son wanted a PS5, and he's like, well, you know, Santa will just make it. And I'm going, how do I explain to him that Santa can't just make a PS5? Because it's a little bit expensive. So we did explain that Santa does have to reach out to organizations to break those things. Yeah, right. He has to stick to the budget too.
Yeah, he's not an electrical engineer, so sometimes he's got to reach out to the Sonys and Microsoft of the world for a little help.
Exactly.
You know, so I want a PS5 too. Let Clay know we're the same, but I'm not getting one.
I don't think he's getting one either.
So, you know, make it exciting, make it fun. You can even make it a little expensive. And then on the thing with kids, do it yourself. If you have a little artist who can help you out, have them make a gift that can have that, you know, sentimental added benefit to it. And you could save a little money or a lot of money if you have the arts and crafts already laying around, you know, or if maybe your arts, you have those kinds of skills. Unfortunately, I don't. And do something where you can create it yourself.
Yeah, you know, Felipe, some of the most cherished things that I have, even after my mom passed away and my father gave my brother and I some of our stuff, was things that we had made when we were really little kids that we put on the tree or whatever it might be. It might be something that we put on the walls and decorate the house with. Those arts and crafts that are created, they can last for generations. And that really is much cooler than even the ones that you buy at the store for $5.99 or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and if you have, you know, an arts kid who's very into arts and crafts like I do, just let them have at it and decorate the whole place. Then you don't have to buy decorations. And they have
love to try to get that by my wife.
But they have fun doing it as well. So, you know, you entertain them. Arts are good because, you know, it helps them out and saves you some money. So if you're not going to do it yourself, either way, regardless of whether you make a list or you are out shopping, avoid the emotional overspending. And we're all guilty of doing this.
This is the biggest one, I think. This is the hardest.
Yeah, and this messes up all the other tips before if you're not careful with it. You know, the list can go out the window if you go ahead and get started on the emotional spending.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that we run into, and I think with all of us, I mean, is we all want to create the greatest holiday season for our kids or our spouses, you know, depending on where you are in life. And we all get into that, you know, that, gosh, you got to have the greatest holiday season. And the thing is as we all as adults probably can remember, it's what we remember the most is not the gifts that we really got, right? I mean, how many gifts do you really remember as a child that you got? I mean, the one thing that stands out in my mind is a baseball bat that I got as a little kid. But how many presents did I get as a child over that many years? And I have one present that really sticks out. So really it's the time spent with everyone and the love of the spirit that comes with the holidays really becomes bigger, doesn't it?
It does. And that's really what's going to matter in the end. And, you know, how many times, especially if you have really little kids, do you give them a toy and then they spend hours playing with the box that it came in? You know, we got a new one of those mattress in a box months ago, and the kids still have the box. They enjoy playing with that box so much. You know, it's very simple for sometimes for the kids, and we as parents are guilty of, well, I want to make sure that I go get them more.
Which really gets back to that list, right? That list that we mentioned in the first or second, I think it was the second slide that we had is really do your best to stick to that, because it's so easy to get stuck into, oh, well, this kid has 4 things and oh my gosh, I only have 3 things for this one. And we tend to forget the cost. Right? We forget to think about the numbers of things that the kids get to open, but we forget really about how much we've spent on one individual. Like I mentioned PS5. You're like, okay. I mean, if we think about those kinds of things, that might be the only gift, right? And we feel as parents guilty about it because it didn't last long enough, or it wasn't as drawn out as we'd like it to be. And we just, it's not smart to get stuck into that.
Yeah, definitely. If you're going to buy a big ticket item, let them know that's it.
Yeah, the other thing that's really smart when you come up into lists is thinking about budget conscious thing, especially when it comes to, my daughter came to me and said it was my teacher's birthday the other day, and she's very, very, very sweet when it comes to spending my money on different gifts. So there are really good little things like gifts like a $5 gift card to Starbucks, especially if things for like coaches and teachers and things like that, because there is that extended, I don't want to say, but you have your extended friends and or your kids' teachers, your coaches, especially in this world of rec sports and club sports that we're all in now. I don't want to say go on the cheap, but there are things that are really sweet that you can do that are really cheap, and like those gift cards. And you go to Target and you can find $5, $10 gift cards for all different kinds of things.
Yeah, you can even buy like a pack of them, and it's like 3 $5 gift cards for $15
for sure.
a pack, and you can give it to someone. And if it's to somewhere like a Starbucks or even Amazon itself, eventually they're gonna use it. You figure most people will go ahead and eventually use it at some point.
Absolutely.
So we do have some bonus tips, and this is a big one. Chase, I know you're a big fan of this next one. To consider just avoiding gifts altogether, just skip them and save that money for experiences, whether it's, eventually, hopefully 2020, hopefully sooner rather than later, we can get back to doing the things that we like to do. And how many of us are sitting there thinking, I can't wait to just go somewhere.
Well,
maybe you
21, 22, we're all going to be excited to go somewhere. Travel's going to be a little more fun.
Travel's going to be a whole different thing, but maybe you make it so that, as you're present whenever we get back to traveling, we're going to take that money and we're going to go wherever it is that you want to go. I don't know, depending on where you want. Maybe you drive up the coast if you're here in California. You turn it into an experience, something that isn't a thing, but will create that memory.
And it can also like kill two birds with one stone, right? You're talking about the idea of that if you're going to have a vacation further in a year, you can use that as a gift, like for the whole family, right? Oh, we get to go to Mexico, or we get to go to Hawaii, or we get to go to the Grand Canyon. And that's like a gift for them to open, right? And it's so you were going to go do it anyway, little do they know, but here it is as a gift. So that's really, really a good idea.
And we do have a puppy on the gift here. That is a very popular purchase that people are doing. Just as a sign that if you're going to get a puppy, the adoption fee for the puppy or buying the puppy itself isn't the last money you'll spend on it.
And that would be the cheapest thing that you do, right? Pets, I'm telling you, they're extraordinarily expensive. So think about the long-term effects that those puppies are cute. And a lot of people, in fact, I've had like 6 or 7 friends through COVID that swore they would never have an animal in their family, let alone a dog. And they all have puppies now or have rescued dogs. In fact, you go into a rescue or you see a dog or cat or something up for adoption and they're gone like that.
Oh, my family's been over me. My kids, my wife, they want one bad. So, I've started doing research months ago for hopefully getting a dog sometime later next year because I like to over-research things like that. And every time you see a puppy pop up at a shelter, you go in and look for it a few days later, that puppy's gone, which is a good thing that they're being adopted, but it also is, remember the long-term effects of that potential experience.
Without question.
For a friend.
One thing that actually we all do every year, and the U.S. Postal Service and shipping, especially in 2020, I would imagine, since we're probably not going to be traveling as much, think about the cost of shipping too. So if you're going to give a gift that is a little bit larger in nature, and not only getting it out in time and planning ahead to making sure that it gets there in time, you definitely have to think about the total expense between the gift and the shipping and getting it there, because that can add up really, really quickly, whether you go UPS or FedEx, or if you want to chance USPS, you have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, shipping costs and then shipping delays that appear to be unavoidable, or they happen every year already during the holidays. So
right.
I would imagine that 2020 is just going to amplify.
Exacerbate that by far.
All right, so we have come to the questions and ideas pages. If you have a great holiday idea that we didn't go over, we'd love to hear it.
Absolutely.
And if you have any questions, we'd love to do our best to answer them as well. Pull up my chat here.
Going to be very interesting to see. We were looking at holidays. We were thinking about traveling to visit our family back east, and and that was before numbers really went up. But again, plane tickets, it was really, really cheap earlier on in the year. But during the holidays, both Thanksgiving and Christmas, the holiday season, man, those prices have gone way back up again. And we decided we can't do it. We'd love to, but those costs for travel this time of year are apparently have not been affected by COVID very much. It'll be interesting to see if a lot of reservations have been canceled or postponed.
Yeah, we definitely normally would have included travel, but given that less and less people will be traveling this year, we left it off. But definitely want to go ahead and plan that out early and calculate that added expense.
So we got a good question from someone, and she says, "What gifts should I get for my 4-year-old little girl, and how much should I spend?" And the great question. For one, what are the things? Let me ask you something. What are the kind of things that she really loves? But not only that, what do you feel, in all honesty, you want to spend? Because really, that's going to be determined on. What is your budget? How much money do you have coming in? How much room do you have to what you're already spending in outgoing bills? And with a 4-year-old, they're still pretty young. A lot of things that you could give them can be pretty inexpensive, that they would still love. And it could be, whether it might be a doll, or it could be even arts and crafts that she can create, like puzzles and creating bows. I know that when my daughter was 4, my wife got my daughter, we talked about this a lot, but it was really inexpensive, just some ribbon, and they taught each other and played with each other on how to make bows. And they made pretty bows for their hair. They made pretty bows for the wrapping, for next year's wrapping paper. And she remembered the next year that she had made bows, and we used those for gifts for her uncles and her brother. So those can be things that could be really, really fun.
Yeah. And someone asked it kind of like as a recap, that was one of them, do it yourself, making the list and sticking to that list.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the personality of your child too, right? I mean, if you would have asked my son to do arts and crafts, he'd have looked cross-eyed at me, but you do something like with my daughter, and she is all over it. I mean, she is all about decorating the house. She's all about creating cards for people. In fact, this year's Christmas cards, we didn't even go out. We didn't do the family photos this year. We just, for whatever reason, we couldn't get ourselves together with it. And my daughter ended up painting something, and we took a picture of that. And that's our holiday card this year, and ended up being really inexpensive.
That's cool. And it's unique.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you're not going to find it at a Hallmark. I mean, unless she's got to deal with Hallmark, which would be
another great question. Is it bad to go into debt for Christmas presents, or have some charges on your credit card? And the answer as a financial professional would be absolutely. I mean, you don't have no idea how many people we meet with in January, right, that have that credit card hangover. Because it got inflated, because again, we got wrapped up in the emotional part of the season, which is really hard not to do. But it's never a great idea, because it's fleeting. You might look back and you go, gosh, that was great. But at the end, and you get into January and you get into February and the new year, you want to be looking towards the next holidays, right? And thinking about putting yourself together, not paying for the last holiday. And that can really kind of,
it's a tough cycle.
It's fun, and it is a tough cycle, because as excited as you get about the holidays coming, you can feel just as bad towards the holidays after because you're paying back. It's kind of like not really being excited about that vacation afterwards if you're paying it off for the next year. You want to try to avoid that. And remember, it may be hard, but the more we plan out for anything, just like our regular budget during the year, just like we talk about saving for things and going forward with what we want to accomplish in our goals, you can set the holidays as being goals that you want to create a certain holiday and you want to have a certain holiday for your kids and family. Plan ahead for it, and that's going to help. That's going to alleviate stress. That's going to avoid debt. You're going to put money aside for those things. That's really going to help.
Yeah. And then we have some ideas for some extra good holiday gifts that you can give that are budget friendly. Someone mentioned holiday cookies. They're a budget friendly way to spread some holiday cheer. I'd be happy if I got some cookies. So yeah, I would imagine that, and you can, and especially if it's something you like to do, you already like to bake cookies, you already make them anyways, you can give them as gifts.
Again, we are doing that this year. My daughter found out she just loves to bake. And so many of our friends and family are getting that. And it's really, nobody thinks of that as the cheap way out. They think of how sweet it is that they took the time to make something for us and included us in the holidays. And that's really what, it's cliche and it's cute, but it is absolutely the thought, and people appreciate that so much.
Yeah. I agree. And you get that like, oh, wow, they took the time to make something for me. And then it adds an extra level of, oh, that was cool.
And think about the time you get to spend with your loved ones when you're doing that. Think about the time you're spending in the kitchen making it. Right. And you're going to remember that time forever more than you're going to remember the actual cookies.
I hope my kids don't want to bake cookies because I am not good at baking.
You can give that to Sarah.
I could, yeah. I love cooking. Baking, no, because you have to actually follow the recipes or you mess things up.
You have to, yeah, that's tougher.
I don't do well with those. And we got another budget tip. Only buy gifts for the kids. Skip out on buying gifts for the adults. This is a great one. Just discuss it ahead of time. Reach out to, your circle, your bubble, or whoever you're going to do holidays with, and just kind of, hey, maybe we skip gifts. And then we go.
We've done that for years, my wife and I. I mean, we have little, like every year my wife gives me, because I don't like to wear pajama bottoms, so she gives me holiday pajama bottoms from Old Navy, right? We're not breaking the bank there, but every year I go, oh, and they're comfortable. Socks, things that I don't like to buy, and it becomes kind of a fun little go-between where we get each other things that we would normally need that we have to buy on a regular basis, and we put a bow on it. And it's fun to see with what we come up with. You can really be pretty creative with things like socks and those kinds of things.
Yeah, and if it's something they were already going to, if you're buying something for your significant other and that's something they were going to buy anyways, you're not really spending any money that you don't need because it was going to be spent anyways. It's just you taking the initiative to go out and buy it for them and avoid them the hassle of going and buying it later.
Absolutely. And Jen, cool. Jen, you had a great idea. You mentioned the Secret Santa. We do that as well with extended family. I hadn't thought of doing that within just my, our four family right here, but that's a great idea as well.
Yeah. And don't buy expensive presents for your pets. You can buy the presents. You should.
No, avoid the presents for the kids, or for the dog or cat.
But maybe don't go breaking the bank, because honestly, if you have a dog, sometimes you get them that last holiday, the chew toy from last holiday at the PetSmart at the checkout that are like 70% off, 80% off. And they love that just as much as if you get them the current holiday one. So if you buy them a Halloween pumpkin, they're going to love it as much as the Christmas tree, and it's going to cost you a lot less.
It's really funny. My kids found this really awesome stick last year and gave that to our dog, and the dog still plays with that stick. Believe it or not.
There you go.
Put a bow on it. It's a present, and the dog and the animal, the pet doesn't know any different. Maybe a treat.
Maybe a treat.
Maybe a food treat.
Like treats. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
I think that's all the questions.
Are there any other questions anybody else might have, even outside of the holiday budgeting? We'd be happy to answer any of those that we can.
And someone mentioned
Well,
a good idea is like family pictures.
yeah, and you know, and I forgive me, my friends who are professional photographers, but you can get pretty good holiday photos now, taking them on our own. You can get by with those. We don't even, you know, we used to do them every year. We haven't done them every year. We do them every couple of years professionally. But for the most part, you can get some good ones taken just with the way the phones are now.
It's true, and you're right. I hope your
Great question here I got from somebody, Phil, before we sign off.
Yeah.
How much should I save per month to prepare for the next holidays? Again, you want to look at what your budget is. A great idea is to say, what can we live on? It's kind of like paying yourself first. That savings account that you're putting in, maybe $25, $50, and have it taken out of your bank account, or have it taken out of your check once a month, and have it put into a savings account or something. Or you can even create another, we've had friends, and I actually, we have a holiday savings account that we created. We have 4 or 5 savings accounts that we create specifically for different things. One being a vacation. We have a holiday bank account. So you can see exactly how much you're putting in every month, and you can have your office, your HR department, when it comes to your paychecks, can put a certain amount, a dollar amount, into each individual account. So you can almost forget how much you're putting away there every month. And you can live on the rest every year. Instead of waiting to save at the end, think about saving at the beginning. But again, it depends on that budget. Get together here in January, even do it now, and maybe think about for next year. What do you want to say? What do you want to do for next year? Is it a vacation you're thinking about saving for? Is it your son or daughter has been wanting something for a long time, and you're thinking, okay, they've done really good in school, and I'm going to really, Santa's going to go overboard this year. If you can afford $25 a paycheck, put $25 a paycheck away.
Yeah,
if you can afford $10, put $10 away.
Doing budgets with people, I've sometimes you mentioned like $50, and someone might be sitting there thinking, wow, that's a lot of money. But if you're going to travel, if you have a large family, if you're going to spend $600 in the holidays of added expenses between gifts, travel, that kind of
food,
thing, that's the same as $50 a month. Except you've now spread it out throughout the course of the whole year, as opposed to trying to figure out how you're going to pay it in December, or putting it on a card and then figuring out.
Yeah, exactly. Having the $600 on your credit card balance.
Right.
Absolutely. That's a really good idea. And if anybody wants to discuss these things, if anybody needs their budget, if they need their finances looked at, or if they just want help with ideas, you don't have to just watch these SWYM lives, even though we love you doing it. You can give us a call. You can contact us, and we can go through the budget and set a course, help set a course for you for the holidays of 2021.
Yeah, and we also have our podcast. I know we mentioned like pets and that kind of thing, where some episodes we've done full hour or so episodes on the added cost of adopting a pet, or a whole bunch of different topics regarding personal finances. So if you're a podcaster, you like to listen to podcasts, or you just want to do a little bit more learning, some of these might apply to you, some of them won't, but feel free to check them out anywhere you get your favorite podcasts.
Absolutely. And finally, we'll be back December 9th. Stick with us. That on December 9th, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Here, the next will be creating a game plan to pay off debt. So we can help you with that.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for all the great questions.